So how to take care of these signals, what signals to give, which measures to use if we want to add resilience to these regions. So our event is taking place as part of the project Good Governance Fund, Economic FAB, financed by the UK International Development from the government of Great Britain, and the implementers of the project is Abt Global and the Centre of Economic Strategy. And for us, in order to be on the same page before our discussion, I suggest that we start with presentation, which my colleague Maxim Samaluk has prepared in order to bring us into the picture, so we are on the same page. Maxim, please, the floor is yours. Thank you, Vladimir. While we have the presentation turned on, allow me to explain what I'm presenting and for what. My presentation, this will be some overview of the condition of the economy with the increased military risks. That could be as a starter for our today's discussion. In it, I would like to just to illustrate the main challenges that we have in front of these regions and what potentially can be done with them. So, what regions are we talking about in general? If we look at a very useful, very great map of the risks in education, we can see that the half of the Ukrainian Hromadas have very high or insurmountable security risk. This methodology of evaluation was developed and approved in the beginning of August. This was developed by the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Digitalization, so it's very interesting how the government is perceiving the security in the regions. Of course, we should mention that education is more or less a conservative center because the security of the children, that should be in front of everything, above all, and of course children require special protection. For the business, we can be less conservative, more risky.
Оскільки бізнес зараз працює в тих областях, які на цій карті позначені особливо червоним кольором, а також чорним кольором. Наприклад, уряд вважає, що в Херсоні, в місті, є непереборний ризик для освіти. Втім, ми знаємо, що в Херсоні продовжують жити і працювати люди. І дуже важливо їх підтримати. Ризикові регіони історично склалися як центри видобувної, важкої, харчопереробної промисловості. Більше того, значна частка продукції цих регіонів експортувалася до Російської Федерації та до країн Після початку повномасштабного вторгнення перед виробниками стратегічно важливих галузей стоїть задача модернізації виробництв, відповідно до новітніх стандартів, особливо для узгодження стандартів as well as search of new
because of the lack of CIS, and we understand that the logistics is very difficult, and the other challenges which are in front of these regions. A significant number of the companies in the risky regions have a very limited access to finances. There are some grant programs that can partially compensate these drawbacks, but this type of financing can't be called foreseeable or systemic, so something has to be done with this.
Повномасштабна війна також поглибила демографічну кризу в
The full-scale war also has deteriorated the immigration problem, and we can see that people are displaced both within the country and live abroad. From the risky regions, they go to the west and abroad, but a significant number of population arrive to the settlements which are close to them. I mean, Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, Poltava Oblast, and because of the lack of good living conditions, access to education, and opportunities for work and professional development, the risk of stagnation of human capital, both in the risky regions as well as in the regions which are close to them, is still very high and much higher than in the rest of the regions of Ukraine. And in case in general in Ukraine, the demographic situation is really endangering. In some risky regions, it can really become catastrophic if we just follow the inertial scenario and will not do anything with this. All of the problems mentioned by me, and not only them, there are a number of other huge number of challenges. They brought to the fact that the economic activity has moved from the east to the west. The share of the western regions of Ukraine in the economy increased, while most of the regions, except for Dnipropetrovsk Oblast and Dnipro, has decreased. We can't simply observe this process, also because we can't let it go and to allow the economy to continue moving westwards, because the western oblasts can't increase without any limits their part in the economy. For the renovation of the economy, we need to come back with the economy of the risky regions. So we at CIS, we thought about it, which measures we as the country can use to support risky regions, which key directions we have separated. First of all, it's the increasing of the business security, reducing the negative impact of war. This could be the generalization of the successful experience of the companies who are working in the risky regions, and they're working successful, what they have done right, which mistakes they make, how we can generalize this experience and spread it over to other businesses. This could be the evacuation plan in case of the need, so that the businesses that continue working in the risky regions would know that in case of very acute situation, both them and the government and all of their employees in general in all of these risky regions, there will be a clear plan what they should do. It's important also to provide the resilience of local budgets, to give them possibility to react to military challenges that appear. The second key is the improvement of business environment, that's simplification of tax reporting, decreasing tax burdens, and improving other administrative measures, and changes of approaches to taxation of business on risky territories. This could be improvement of the conditions for the business conditions through simplification of interaction with the government. The next item could be the facilitating access to financing. I already mentioned that the grant programs can't fully substitute normal financing and loan programs. That's insurance of war risks, adaptation of programs that already exist, and also the special needs of the regions with the increased reason. Possibly, the 579 program can be adapted to the needs of these regions. The next one is the preservation of human capital. We should improve the effectiveness of the labor market through improving the system of reservation of the employees. This is a big problem for all of the country, but evidently in the risky regions, the situation with the employees is still more difficult. Possibly, we can also increase the entrepreneurship activity through various measures, increase the safety of housing infrastructure so that people can continue to live and work on these territories. Definitely, we need to support the critical infrastructure, provide continuous operation, continuous energy supplies, promoting the development of the distributed generation. And the last item we have mentioned as promoting sustainable development in key sectors. Agriculture, this could be help in demining of lands, renovation of soils after military activities, insurance of risks, promoting logistics for agri-producers, processing industry, increasing the effectiveness of the key industrial objects, privatization and more access to financing, simplification for introducing, for bringing in the equipment, creating of the sustainable system of recovery that will set up clear priority what we are rebuilding and for what. And once again, promoting experts, priority insurance of expert contracts. It's very important that our expert businesses would continue to work, would continue to develop, providing assistance for the implementation of standards of the European Union, promoting the participation in international fairs and exhibitions. Of course, we understand it's quite difficult because there are some limitations on exiting the country, but definitely our list is not exhaustive, and we definitely don't say that we say it all, everything is correct. And the idea of our today's meeting is the discussion of what can be done in order to support the risky regions. Have we correctly identified the key areas that need support? How best to fill these directions? Or maybe we have to change them. What have we forgotten? What would you add? We would be very much happy to hear your opinions. Many thanks. That's all from my side. And passing the floor back to the moderator, Volodymyr. Thank you, Maxim. Okay, now let's agree how we will be moving forward. First of all, what is the objective? The objective is not just formulate for ourselves some things that we would believe are useful, but also to bring these things to the specialized ministries, the Ministry of Economy. And we have online Andriy Tilyupa, Deputy Minister of Economy. In some 2 minutes, I would like to pass the microphone to him for his words, that he could also guide this discussion. And secondly, if you have heard in the presentation of Maxim some things which you don't think are acceptable, or vice versa, you believe something that we must have forgotten, something that we would be very much happy for your insights. We have a lot of us, the people who are sitting on the table. This is not even the half of the participants, because we have very many participants online. And again, apologies that 4 minutes for the first speech. But again, if you have any wish to exchange opinions afterwards, we will find such a possibility. And finally, I have to mention that the Center of Economic Strategies also is recording this meeting. So these proposals that have been voiced, they will be aggregated and sent over to the ministry. Andriy, in case you are with us, I wanted to pass the floor to you for asking, for directing us, for guiding us and giving us the vector. Good afternoon. Yes, welcome to all the participants of this event. Can you hear me well? Not that well. Let's try again. Can you hear us better now? Yes, we can hear you now. Welcome to everybody. I am now on a trip into regions, and it's important because we are following today's discussion, because in general, this topic for us is very actual, and we really hope for the active involvement of experts of the environment to make sure we could really work on some optimal measures for the support of business in these problematic regions, because we understand that at the moment when we are analyzing, according to our data, these traditional instruments of support that we have, they are not enough, unfortunately. They are sometimes not working. I mean, if we're looking at 579, the grants for the processing, which are administered through the banking system, the banks, unfortunately, are not working actively in these regions. Therefore, we would like to hear and to work on the real strategy, how we can additionally support and develop these regions. Thank you, Andriy. And I really would to start starting with our offline participants, in case somebody is already ready to present your opinions. I can see Boris, and then Andriy will be next. Boris, please, the floor is yours.
Два ми втратили в Мелітополі і Бердянську, повністю зруйнований Оріхівський комбінат, а ну і поруч з Запорізьким регіоном в Херсоні Береславський комбінат. До війни
The main office of the company is in the city of Zaporizhia, and we are the producers of food in Zaporizhia. We live and work in Zaporizhia. First of all, nowadays Zaporizhia is working. We have some 8 industrial companies. Before the war, there were like 12 of them. We lost 2 in Melitopol and Berdyansk. Fully is ruined the Orikhovo. complex, and the Berezovsky complex is also fully ruined, fully destroyed. Before the war, we had some 2,000 employees. Now we have 1,560. Just for your reference, even in these conditions, during the war, I can just tell you two figures. Our company paid during the martial law into the budgets of various levels some 600 million grivna of various taxes, and we invested 200 million grivna in the Zaporizhzhia region in own production. First of all, what I would like to say, a good plan which is presented nowadays, but the devil is always in details, and we need to talk how this will be implemented in life. Because, first of all, I believe that's important. Get our head out of the sand and clearly say what the frontline territories are according to the law, how they are defined, how many kilometers to the contact line should be already considered the territory of military activities, and we should be honest when we talk about that. Because for these territories, it's important to implement 100% special regimes of existence. Thanks God, happily we have regions, we have business in other regions, we have in Kyiv, big production in Chernivtsi, we have a company in Lviv, so every month, of course, I'm visiting every company, I'm going all over the country, from Chernivtsi, Lviv, all the way to Zaporizhzhia. So we have to understand that the country lives a different life, 100% different life, and we should honestly talk about that. And with my great respect to the whole Ukrainian business, we have to understand that the conditions where the business is working in Zaporizhzhia and even in Lviv, and even in my favorite Vinnytsia, when we are moving towards creating the industrial park. These are absolutely different things. We have to understand that. Because nowadays, working with in Zaporizhzhia and guided bombs, I don't think this is at all different from the front line. A huge number of programs, and this was really nicely mentioned by the Deputy Minister, in terms of the support programs, especially 579. Please slow me down, I have 2 more minutes. If you talk about the measures, I don't think anybody will leave you. Let me talk about the measures. So, okay, we're now talking about 579, the effective instrument. So we have to know that already the draft resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers, even the norm of the law, where all the payments within 579 will be limited with 200,000 euro. That's 8 million grivna. In case we talk about the industrial holding, like we in Zaporizhzhia, if we received 130, 140 million grivna, with the average rate of 16%, then this amount within a year, we received it 3 times. That means from the start of the 1st of January, the companies will have to pay full rate. For the big part of the business, this will be equal to stopping our business. If we talk about our company, having lost 4 assets, we have not lost the obligations. We still have them. In terms of the banks, we buy principal amounts and interest rates for the damaged or ruined assets. We do this every day. That's first issue. Second issue. It is clearly mentioned to us that most likely Zaporizhzhia will work in the conditions not of just electric supplies limited. Most likely we will be living without the electric supplies. And we know why. Because this is how the energy system is built, so even the import energy is not possible to transfer to Zaporizhzhia. That's how the system is built. While the capacities in our region are almost lost. The business say, okay, we are ready to build up the decentralized system, Last month, our company put in 30 million hryvnia. We are now putting together the first cogeneration unit in one of our complexes that will make it fully energy independent. But we have 5 of these, and we need some 200 million hryvnia to make these companies energy independent. We don't need gifts. Give us the low rate loans so we can build up the system, number one. And secondly, please switch in with the state guarantees. I mean, who will be supplying what without the state guarantees? In terms of the bank's proposals, I will not mention them, but it's important to understand that even in the 579 programs, even in the programs of the support to the regions, a huge number of banks are not ready to give loans, even with the availability of state support in the high-risk military zones. Another very sensitive question. That's local taxes. And first of all, that's the land tax. We are paying the land tax in full volume in Zaporizhia. And look, it's very difficult to say to the local authorities, what are you guys doing? The local authorities say, sorry, but in order to make sure that the policemen would go around the street, that there would be some people who would be cleaning the streets, we need to compensate this amount from the budget. If you don't have the compensation mechanism, we can't free you from the payment of the land tax. Additionally, it's a very important issue, it's the employees. I believe that all employees who are working today in our companies, and I can tell you, I was recently at some really great meeting where we had gathered in the city, and I can tell you the number of private entrepreneurs, if we want, if we are around the table, the state companies, it's already less than 20%. I want that the employees would be left, the ones who are working. We can't make the programs of targeted support. This could be the decreased utility payment or the compensation of payments for heat supplies. We have to do something that we could say to a person that why the person stays to work within the risk of conditionally of the deadly risk. Therefore, I believe that the program that was on the screen, it will be really working. In case in front of this program, we will have the responsible person, the cabinet of ministers, the resolution that will be done for this, and what we'll be doing this with every item. Thank you, Boris.
І дуже важлива штука, треба додати. Дивіться, ми розуміємо, що грошей зараз є така розумію, що мене будуть кидати помідорами компанії Заходу. Але вибачте, як ви сказали, Захід сьогодні достатньо гарно працює, слава Богу, що в нас велика країна з точки зору розміру. Але якщо грошей в фонді розвитку підприємства буде не вистачати на компенсацію відсотків по кредитах, я вважаю, що буде 100% справедлива направляти велику кількість цих грошей на компенсацію кредитів прифронтових територіях.
Тобто, фактично, це навіть не новий захід, а це захід, який просто треба виконувати те, що вже зараз є. Поки Андрій готується до виступу, нагадаю, що в онлайні ми також можемо піднімати віртуальні руки, і ми будемо долучати вас до розмови. Будь ласка, піднімайте руки і будемо давати вам слово. Будь ласка, Андрій Длігач, засновник і голова компанії Abt Global.
Окрім як the big money, I mean, this is not like a new measure, that it simply has to be met what it is. And while Andriy is preparing for the performance, let me remind you that online, in Zoom, we can also raise our virtual hands, and we will be putting you to work. Please do raise hands. We will give you the floor. Андрій Дикач, the founder and the head of the group of the Abt Group. I have businesses that have representations in each oblast of Ukraine. That's why on my own business I'm monitoring figures, and I have to say that first of all I would agree with the majority of conclusions. that the problems is not different blind areas.
Чому ми маємо підтримувати бізнес-активність там?
We
Тому що
see
харків'яни через харківський патріотизм дуже
with
хочуть залишати
demography,
бізнес,
why
не
we're
хочуть
talking
його
only
релокувати
about
з Харкова.
the
Чи це важливо,
economy
чи
with
це
the
є
increased
пріоритетом
fees.
для держави? Взагалі,
We
в нас
have the
є
economic
відповідь на
disparity in many
економічну
regions.
доцільність
But
підтримування бізнес-активності в відповідних регіонах.
it seems to me very much clear why there are many more risks within different land areas. It goes without saying, but do we need to correct them? What is the answer to the map? Why we have to support business activity there? Because Kharkiv dwellers, because of Kharkiv patriotism, they want to stay in Kharkiv and don't want to relocate from Kharkiv. Is this important? Is this a priority for the state? In general, do we have the reply to economic to support of this in region? Of course, I want, as an economist, to have the balance, so we don't have do away with this economic and social disparity. That would be stimulus for the development of business in Kharkiv, but this answer on a state level, we don't have it, neither in the format of the vision, not in the format of the after-war vision. So I would be having some questions. Do we need to take out the land tax only in Zaporizhia Oblast? Do you think that Odessa Oblast suffers less, or Vinnytsia that has also its own problems? This question is not there. So this disbalance needs to be resolved at strategic, not at tactical level, entering some priorities. As a conclusion, improving, increasing, strengthening, all these beautiful words. But what we see in Kharkiv, in Zaporizhia Oblast, it's a much bigger activity of conscription office to kill the potential of the business. It's much more harsh action of taxation officials, and mostly this is Kharkiv. The overall majority is Dnipro, where we have radically higher pressure of the regulatory and law enforcement bodies on business. So the question is not to create preferences. Maybe the question is, first of all, to take away this unnecessary pressure. And the banks, I can only fully support Boris. They don't do lending, and it's not about making them do this. Probably the state does need to take more responsibility for insurance of military risks, and in such a way to give the possibility to the banks to implement the 579, because this program is definitely underfinanced. So possibly 579 should have new priorities. I think today was voted or will be voted. I think it's about for the defense 579 to direct. Maybe this could be preferences or some other conditions of the banks to finance the frontline areas. Next, the vision of the regions themselves. With Boris, we were engaged to strategic sessions. For Zaporizhia Oblast, I was also working on the strategy of Kharkiv Oblast, but there are no conclusions there. The conclusions that would pertain to which economy, which structural economy they see in the development of this oblast, and where is the support at the strategic level from the state. So it's also necessary to solve. And the last thing which I want to say for the time being, it's why people have to stay to work in these regions, why the business has to stay and work in these regions. That is the question. This is not an emotional question. That's exclusively the question of modeling the feasibility to do this. While there's no objective answer, is it worth it or is it not worth it? In Kharkiv, they will continue to ask questions. It's the logistical nowhere. Why you are stimulating us to remain in the emotional nowhere. Maybe you could also stimulate us. Where did you bring the production? Did you bring this to Lviv? Maybe this is something that we should do rather than stimulating FED and talk about the 30 million project into the plasma engines in Kharkiv. Somebody has to be brave enough to talk about that. Thank you, Andriy, for your remarks, and let us give the floor, as we promised, to somebody from online. In 1 minute, I will pass the floor to the general manager of Centravis, Yuri Atanasov, who is basically is the closest to the front line. He has his production, and maybe then, Yuri, I don't know if you can take the floor, because in every performance we hear the word bank. If you're ready, Yuri, then we can go ahead. Please, Yuri, the floor is yours. Thank you very much, colleagues. Welcome to everybody. Today, I'm turning to you from the city of Uzhgorod. In this city, we have part of our production, which we opened in the end of 22, beginning of 2023. And exactly in the morning, I was engaged to this meeting, same as Andriy Tilupa, with the management of the country. We were actually talking how to move further and how to support our business. But again, unfortunately, or fortunately, the 90% of our business remains in the city of Nikopol. That's a very specific frontline zone. Every day we have 50 drones on a daily basis, and the majority of them is it's falling, it's exploding. In addition to artillery and grads. Irrespective of all of that, I want to emphasize that the main problem, as I see it, I will go to questions and proposals, because I believe that each of us on the ground does a lot to make sure that our companies will stay strong and the country will stay strong. First of all, once again about the banks, we are in default since 2022 because we are in the frontline zone. Our bank, state, it's a state bank, it's Ukr-Eximbank, which supports us, and by the way, I didn't say most important, I represent Centravis, that's the producer of the seamless stainless pipes, 90% of which we are exporting abroad. Approximately annual revenue is 150 million euro. And we are paying the amount of taxes from this of all levels. We have 1,200 people working for that, 1,100 in Nikopol and 100 people in Uzhgorod. Also, our creditor is the bank with whom we have made an agreement in 2021, but when the war started, we came into default because we are on the frontline area, we're in the risk zone, and we have problems. We can't get any additional benefits, any beneficial loans. All this 579 or some programs, separate programs. Now we have submitted for this relocation of our company, and we have received zero assistance from the state. And the biggest problem, you know why? When I was turning to the management of the country with the question in the morning, please help us. So I heard, that's NBU. Yes, I'm happy that we have these independent structures, NBU, National Bank of Ukraine, and they're independent. But I believe that the program of support, the state support, at the expense of state banks, of the companies which are in the zone of the highest risk, that should cover and should somehow help, should have some influence on the state bank. Bank proposes us assistance, but they say, first of all, please sort it out with your other state bank, Ukr-Eximbank, that does lending to you. So this question needs to be resolved very quickly. And a few more proposals. I don't want to repeat the words of my colleagues. the territories. It was mentioned that it is important to find out what is actually frontline areas. I can tell you more. With the change of legislation, a Nikopol district, not from the point of view of the taxation, it doesn't fall under Section 2, but rather Section 3, that is the territory of the active hostilities, where the state resources are functioning, and they say there is some collision, so we are taking away the benefit from you from the land tax. That's really stupid. That needs to be very quickly resolved. I have this resolution, I can send you what resolution we're talking about. I believe that in case if we are working at the frontline area and we have these benefits, we are the strategical company, we have the possibility to reserve people. But when I see, like every day, this conscription office, they're working together with our entrance point, and they're taking away our last staff who are not reserved. I think that the state should do, when people remain near the front line, to give us the possibility to reserve at least 75%. Although the president said today, don't touch, I can see the balance. I understand that we need to keep the front. But then don't say about the support of the frontline areas. Let us just fight at the frontline territories. So whoever will survive, will survive. So I have to have more understanding, more support of some very specific actions for the support. And the last thing, many things. If we talk about the support of these regions, the frontline regions, we have to protect, not only to give and limit. We have now a decision in terms of the priority supplies of electric energy, if there are limitations to the frontline areas. We know this. There is the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers that gives us the possibility to have some priority when it comes to supplies of electricity, but we should ASAP protect the infrastructure, defend the energy infrastructure, because when I see, apologies, these transformers there without any protection, what are we waiting for? Until another Shahed will kill this all. The tech has to move quicker. Our substation that feeds our part of the city and our company, that's the tech substation. I will not give you any more details. 3 transformators there. 3 transformers and 2 already are burnt out. 1 is remaining. What are we waiting for? We should do more with the protection of the energy infrastructure. We should do this. We should control this ASAP. This is should be Ukrenergo, the tech. They have to be protected ASAP. I understand others need to talk. Thank you for the attention. Thank you for the support. Thank you, Yuri. Whenever I'm talking about your company in different conversations, it is the company that does from the front line the components for Ferrari, and that's always well perceived. I can see lots of hands raised. I suggest in the end to exchange opinions, and we have a lot of panelists here and online. Therefore, I would like now to pass the floor to Yuri Kotion, the deputy head of Ощадбанк, and I can also see the comments in Zoom from Olga Shapoval, who also wants to slightly different opinion to give to us in terms of what we have heard before. Therefore, Yuri and Olga, you are the next. Welcome, colleagues. I am the deputy head of the management board for corporate business. First of all, I would like to mention that we are also the company that is working in the regions with the increased military risks, and we definitely know what that is. We are the last to get out of those territories when it's not possible to have the banking activity from the point of view of security, and we are coming back to the ones in terms of Vladimir, do we need a separate strategy to work with such regions? This is a rhetoric question. So this strategy at the third year of the law, it is adopted at the level of all institutions that are doing this question. I will not advocate. I'm responsible for the banking activity. I can just tell you that at the level of the state banks, in these strategies, there is the priority of supporting regions that have this increased risks. We have done a lot during this time. You have probably seen there were some public cases in terms of the support of the companies that suffered the biggest, lost half or even more percent of doing business in Ibalon. Some other agricultural companies, we never stopped any loan agreement. We continually supported everybody. We gave new financing limits, although there are military risks. And today, surprising as it may seem, the banks are guided when they make decisions on lending, the assessment of all risks, but they don't take the military risks as the main criterion for making decisions. We actually put it out of brackets. And there is another issue that nowadays is not for the bank. The most principal issue is the availability of insurance of the military risks, but exactly for business that says that I don't want to put in the co-generation unit because I will not get compensation in case something arrives. So the bank is ready to give financing, but the business is not ready to take on this responsibility. And that's a very actual question. We know that the question about insurance of military risks, it is high on the agenda, but still not solved. The National Bank has announced the adoption of the relevant law about the implementation of such insurance. So we look forward to this law, and we really hope that it will help us significantly to decrease these risks in these particular regions. When it comes to the support areas, what was presented by Maxim is absolutely correct. They pertain to infrastructure and the distributed generation, provision of own electric generation. It's also a priority in our activity. There are a great number of programs that allow to finance all of that, and a huge number of our partners and additional institutions, they are also in their strategies. They are looking at frontline areas, and a number of agreements and limits are set at the level of the state banks. There are additional elements for the micro business, medium business, and individually big corporate clients at these risky territories. We are financing in these territories. We never stopped issuing grants in these regions. There are cases when the company can't, for some technical reasons, expect the loans. It's actually not that many reasons. It's about defaults, about the active war. It's some technical records in the registers which the bank can't take note of. They require some resolutions, but it's a massive problem that doesn't allow to do lending in these regions. And the last thing which I wanted to mention, that the main role today of our activity in financing in these regions, it's most likely the role of hromadas who are working there because they feel like nobody the needs and know the possibilities which are there in these regions, irrespective of the fact that there are a lot of instruments and limits in financing and the availability from banks to give this financing. But the projects which are coming from the municipalities in the framework of the development of infrastructure, resolving social, ecological issues, there are just very few. They're almost not there. When you start to speak in more detail with municipalities and ask them why you're not doing this. I think this is very elementary, very easy, and it has the break-even point like 3-5 years, and you will also get the grant component. So you will get like part of your loan free of charge. And yes, it turns out that it's very necessary, but nobody does that. Therefore, in the first place, this is the call to Hromadas to really be more engaged. Thank you. We have actually found out some sector where the problems are less than on average. In case the banks are calling for the braveness of business, that means that you don't see super big problems in the banking sector. Moreover, that the strategy of streamlining lending, it foresees certain items for action in the regions, what we call the resilience regions. We have a comment from Olga Shapomal, the Executive Director of the Kharkiv IT Cluster. We'll be very happy to hear you. And Olena, if you're ready, then maybe you can join afterwards. Olga, the floor is yours. Many thanks. First of all, thank you for the invitation. I also wanted to comment that I would agree with the comment that was provided by my colleague Olga Trofimtseva in terms of that in the economy we have this share of regions, and in case it were not there, we would not see the negative figures of IDPs in some Western regions. During the third year of the war, what we should start doing or should stop doing, we should stop lying to ourselves. What do I mean? I mean that, first of all, we have to say that, yes, we have the regions with different levels of having some business risks. And it's not that people are so surprised and they decide to stay there. We have to respect the choice of the people who, for the third year of the war, they either stay or have returned. In Kharkiv, we see a huge physical returnee relocation. People, we can't really blame them for that. I can tell you that I'm talking to you from Kharkiv, not from Uzhgorod. And definitely, we have people here. And to hire a person in Kharkiv now, it's possible. It's not nowhere here. But let me ask you a question. The story with these conscription officers, when they're really taking out, they have really a different approach to conscription, where the people will bring these cars to Lviv. Of course, they will not go there. Where will be this Soviet-Russian army if we stop supporting the frontline areas? They will be in Warsaw. Maybe it will just go quicker. So we, as the state, we have to understand this. Economy is about the volumes. It's about the state, and the state is about the people in the first place. So we have to understand that in case we have the regions where we have a big number of people, these are the people with families. They provide for this area, they provide for this production, which is impossible to relocate. You can't relocate Turbo Atom, who is, I was ahead of the big production. Apologies, but my colleague is sitting here, Alexander Popovich, and maybe he can connect. To relocate the production, it's sometimes easier to put it to scrap. You have to be aware of that. And the second that you have to understand, we have the powerful engineering school. Apologies, this is how they were structured. So we have a number of companies who relocated, who are happy, but they can't hire anyone. They can't hire anyone at the West. They don't have engineers. They left even 15 years ago. So we have to understand that as the state. So basically what we need to do, we need to stop convincing that the relocation for the state, it's not the way out for the state, we can tell you that it's not the way out. Let us be aware that we will be, because we have become aware people who live here. So let us all together, from Kyiv, from Lviv, let us be aware that we are in new reality. So what we will be doing? Let us stop making equal conditions for the unequal, because they say about discrimination very often. We feel this discrimination. We are permanently set. Let us cascade the problem. Let them make some taxation benefits to you. But in the West, they do make benefits. Of course, they've received prophesied budget because of the relocation of the East. So let's the state look at that. We have the management from the center. It's all very centralized. Let's see that the state can't ask some preferences that these local communities will do. The money is not there. With the help of donors, with the help of the state, they moved to the Western regions, but the problem is that you can't hire anyone there. That's another question. And the next question is the question related to the provision of people who live here, because they can't travel back and forth and provide for their rear. Their families live with them, their children live with them, and the colleagues, economists know that the biggest impetus in the world economy in the last century was made when women were allowed to work. So I can tell you in the infant areas, women can't work because children, there has to be powerful shelters, but children have to keep their kids at home at high floors because they can't give them to schools, which are equipped with some simpler shelters. So we have to understand, we as the state, we should become responsible. Let us provide for the educational process with some simpler shelters, not the ones that are protected with the nuclear explosion, because now it is mentioned in our standards that they should be protected from the nuclear explosion. So let's provide that, because people don't travel back and forth. They live here with families. Women is a huge resource, and the colleagues from the Ministry of Defense told us also to make sure that the children, that the women would work, they need to take their kids to schools, kindergartens. Officially, this is not available. And those who are working not officially, everybody is at risk, in fact, in case something happens. And the next moment is the moment of electric energy. I would like to support all colleagues. There have to be priorities here, and definitely when we talk once again about equality, we have to say about the structure of consumption, because it's also very easy to calculate to see where we have the structure of consumption. Now the colleague has said, like in Lviv Oblast, in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, they have some cities which are standing out. We have some super green, and now it's not simply not ready to take in. They are not able to fit in something new there because it's too much there. So we have to look at really people are still there. So once again, if we talk what to do, there are two things here. When we have recognized this, next we need to provide two trajectories. First of all, is provision of survival. It's about the compensation of equal conditions for the unequal. It's provision of access to education, to medicine. I mean, electronic services, the registrations via DIA are not working for the regions which have the military activities. That's very easy. Simply, you can look up the regions, people will live there, they will not relocate. Please respect the choice of these people. If they decided to be with you a certain shield for a certain number of people, please respect that and let us try to somehow support them, not just morally, because we do feel this fear permanently. They say, are you from Kharkiv? Are you from Nikopol? How can it be? Please don't support us not only from the moral point of view. Let's see what we can do. In terms of the reservation, that's a big question. Let's just talk about the regional reservation, about the adaptive reservation, because we had this adaptive guarantee. Everybody who's paying taxes, they should pay 100% of the stuff, because now it's not profitable to officially hire people, because the conscription office is immediately taking them away. If we want that people will not go abroad, those who are staying, they're working, they're risking their lives. they're providing experts or the local. So let's support them, and definitely the state will not lose millions of people from that, but definitely will win the ones who can really provide for this reliable career, not something that makes us weaker. So we should talk about the recovery in case we talk about the absence, deficits of the workforce, and we will talk about the recovery. The humanitarian demining and all these projects don't need to be brought to the center like in the frontline areas. They should come into the frontline areas. So we have to take into account that the front areas do exist. We can't relocate them because once we relocate them, the front line will become Poltava. The front line will become Dnipro. Of course, there are ways to attack the river of Dnipro. I really want to do some drawings on the map, but let's stop doing this because that makes us weaker as the state. That's not state formation, it's a state killing narrative, so we have to respect that. So we have to plan this in this state strategies. We have to plan priorities for the frontline areas and for the companies who are entering into these frontline areas, not the ones that are registered and want to get some benefits, because there has to be also a certain compensator. If there is no compensator, everybody will now get registered, but will live and work not in the frontline areas. So we have, as the state, think about this. And the third aspect is innovations. If we talk about the innovations, then the support of the industries with high level of technological element, high added value, the development of underground structures, because we will be living in this certain risk. So we have to systematically build it. We have metro stroy, we have different technologies that we can use, but we have to decide on a state level that we do have for the third year the full-scale war. Let us stop cheating ourselves and let's doing this. There are some clear things that need to be worked on, and the colleagues are sharing this. Let's put this into the state strategy and let's do this. Thank you. Thank you, Olga. I hope that our colleagues were able to write down your proposals. Now we hear the business, but let us also give the floor. Let's put it this way from the other point of view. From the point of view, let's look at this process. Olena Melnik is the expert of the labor market of the State Employment Service. We touched slightly on the point of employees, what we can do in this area, in your opinion. And please, next, I would like to ask Kirill Krivolap, and then we will pass online to the regions. Also for our online users, we have not only the physical room, but also the digital room, so we see your hands and we will come back to you. Olena, please, the floor is yours. Like from the state institution that also represents the state in terms of employment, I can tell you that really nowadays we have a significant human capital deficit, and we can see that our data of vacancies portal says that 250,000 vacancies of employers versus 130,000 are looking for job. That's the official issue. It says that in some regions that we have one candidate, we have up to 10, 15 vacancies. But again, it depends on the specifics of the region. In addition to that, during the war, the service understood that it can't appeal against working of private employment agencies, but we can improve our own institutional capacity and move from the position of searching for employees from person to vacancy, but actually from the business, from their needs. And we are really taking care of the development of these recruiting-based institutions, because this employment service is presented in every region. We didn't even stop in the country, even in the frontline areas. The only thing that is most important is the security of our clients and our employees. So in some frontline areas, we have partial services rendered online whenever possible. It is offline, always happy to see every client. And I wanted to tell you what is in terms of the service, irrespective of a lot of things. Of course, we can't close all the needs for business, it's clear. And the service tries to become better, but at the same time, during the war, we have been engaged to the development of local businesses that pertains more to small and micro business, some grants for the development, creating own business up to 100 or 250,000 hryvnia or up to 1 million if it's a family of the military or the military himself. The conditions are very simple. This is interest-free loans, create the business for you, hire the employees based on the size of the grant, provide the people with some work. When it comes to the educational service, the service has changed a lot of approaches. We understand that we have the 8 centers of the vocational training in general in our network, says that no single employer is ready to wait for the employees. With the 9, 10, 12 months, if we don't talk about some top professionals, so training of adults, it is the possibility in case business needs it. We do have a lot of professions. It's roughly 100 professions and specialties where we can do some short-term training. Moreover, this is all for our partners, for the business, it's free of charge. So I wanted to attract your attention to that as well. The educational programs continually improve. The next very powerful instrument, which is underused nowadays, is the possibility of the business to engage our money when you're employing people in your company or some company. It's that we have some compensations from the state we pay to the employers for the employment of people. In case some new business is created, creating some new jobs, or in case you take some registered unemployed or employing the IDPs or people with disabilities, the amounts, compensations, this could be the minimum salary or higher, but at the same time we can pay some costs for the labor payments, some taxes. If we talk about the deficit of the labor force, next year we will be doing the program of people with disability. We have some 3 million of people with disabilities, so it's another segment of people. It's a very specific category, but we need to give them the possibility to work. Therefore, yes, a lot of results and achievements we have, and everybody who hears us, please be aware that we are doing a lot, because really we have a lot to take care, to develop. And I can give you another example in terms of issuing of grants. In 2022, when we started to develop this program, the grants for the development of business were not issued in the frontline areas. So we made changes, understanding the requests from our clients. We conducted the necessary changes, and nowadays we can say that the frontline areas, in the amount of requests concurred for the expansion of our business, they equal to the territories that are in the most conditions. Thank you, Olena. I would like to now ask the floor Kirill Krivolov, the Executive Director of the Center of Economic Recovery, and we'll come back to Chromaras.
Нас теж долучали тоді як дискусійну платформу. Ми тоді напрацювали 230 дуже практичних, дуже конкретних заходів.
Allow me to speak from the positions of somebody who works a lot with the government in this area of public policy. As an advisor, and I would like to remind you that first of all, we have the experience of adopting, first of all, the anti-COVID program in May 2019. We worked on some very 230 practical specific measures. Please look it up, you can download it, because officials, they will not do anything that is not prescribed in the state documents. They will be working only in the framework of this, in case these items are not prescribed very clearly, that you can allow somebody to take away the land tax. In the COVID times, there were 230 initiatives that were approved by the state. The second document for your inspiration that was developed by CES in 2021, when we approved the strategy, the concept of the development of the Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts. It had to be further approved as strategy, then the full-scale aggression started. It was not finally approved, but it was quite an innovative solution. It was mentioned that it was decided to recognize honestly that there are some special conditions, and there was a different logic in terms of splitting of taxes. There were more logic in terms of freeing people from taxes. There must have been more grants and less loans, because loans are not that realistic. So there were a lot of things that were accepted by the government. But now the Ministry of Infrastructure will be together with the Mineral Recovery. They were looking at this regional cohesion as the umbrella for everything. And I believe that this is also the question to them. Definitely there will be a methodology that will be dividing the countries by level of risk, and we should not be afraid that we could take some special decisions for these territories and to bring some state documents. We should not be afraid of that. We have to recognize they need 230, 250 of various ways of stimulation, and I can tell you that international partners, they're not always understanding the challenges, understanding the complexity. It can be that there could be more grant programs in Chernivtsi than, conditionally speaking, in Zaporizhia, which is not normal. And the Ministry of Recovery will be working really well in terms of distribution. Loans should go to the west, grants to the east. And that's where we have to be absolutely honest that this is happening now, the way it's happening, because for your understanding, in Ukraine facility, they put inside the logic that the war will end. It has already ended in 2024, second quarter. Why it happened like this? There was certain type of development. IMF forecasts, and according to their forecasts, the war should have been already over, and all the program support were based on that. Now the partners are moving into the logic. Now it's long term. So in terms of forecasting, we're looking out in the window. If it's lasting, it should last until the end of the year. In half a year, we once again evaluate the situation. So we have to have certain honesty for people who came from Mariupol, Bakhmut. We shouldn't say that it's all temporary, that you will go back now. That's for some short period of time. We have to work with the programs, with social housing. We have to work, we should propose relocation to companies who can. Those who stay, please think of the program, because who can tell us what will be like. I mean, if we have the peaceful agreement in 1 year or half a year, this was the program. I mean, in Mariupol, there was some military units that were registered there, so the city would prosper because they paid a lot of taxes. So now we don't have that analytics, so there is a big responsibility of the Ministry of Recovery that these strategies have to be prepared, and there is a big responsibility that the Administrations should bring up this information, go into more details than we had on this slide. It was 88 slides of this presentation of COVID program. And honestly talk about the long-term strategy, what will be the proportion of programming in these regions. Thank you, Kirilo. Go into details, be based for some long-term, and the rest to accept as a gift if it's differently, and most often to be honest with the people. And as we promised, next online is the frontline areas, such as the local authorities. Yuri Bova, the city mayor of Trostenets. Yuri, welcome. Good evening. Many thanks for the possibility to take the floor. I was very much attentively listening to this. Many thanks for your positions when you talked about the local taxes, where we need to support the schools and kindergartens because the women can't go to work while the children are at home. And that's very important in terms of the formation of the local policy. I represent the city of Trostenets, which is 40 kilometers from the Russian border. We were occupied during 1 month. We were the first city that was deoccupied, and 95% of the local population returned. No single company was relocated anywhere because the majority of people, it doesn't make sense to move the production like the chocolate factory. I mean, you can't bring it to Lviv, another region. You have to build from zero the new one. That's very difficult from the financial point of view and effort point of view. Maybe I missed it somewhere. What is necessary for the business, so the business would believe in us from the local authorities? First of all, it's improving the role of the anti-air defense, because we can see that it's not about taking the missiles down. They're less, but Shaheds become more and more. They go in big quantities, and they now fly in some border territories, going hundreds of kilometers. They go to Kiev. We're not taking down. So the units of anti-air defense and of the armed forces, the ones who stay at this, also present. We are actually taking down the Shaheds at the Sumy region. But let me tell you very honestly, we can take them down here in case we give to these possibilities good, effective weapons rather than the old machine gun. They say find some ammunition from Russians and then you will work. Would that give the possibility to be so the job for today's authorities in terms of the security of the business, it's to really bring them down, all these Shaheds at the territory where they're flying in Chernigov, Kharkiv, Sumy regions, and we need to put them all. And I can give you the last example. We are told that we have some machine guns that arrived, but search for cars where you can put this. And once again, it's about our state policy of restricting the enemy and providing adequate conditions for the population living all over the territory and the normal way of business, normal operation of business. In terms of the conscription offices, as the city mayor, I understand that we have to take care of the city. That's the utilities, that's all critical infrastructure, water separation, water disposal, hospitals. There will be nobody to work on this territory. We have one electrician per city. The tractor drivers, we have only 2 for the whole Hromada of 29,000 people. To serve the communications networks on this territory, where we have more danger where the Shaheds are falling much more, 10 times more. People are taken out very effectively by conscription officers, employees, and I would support others who have said people who stay here, the business, the utilities companies, they should be 100% reserved. They already risked to live and work on the frontline areas. The same warriors, like the other warriors with the weapons in hands, they have to build fortifications. There are some rare units that are placed some 30, 50 kilometers from the contact line, and they need to place people there, do some laundry, and many other things that should be done by our energy workers, utility workers, to help our military to fight and to restrict the enemy at the border. So today we should reserve not 50% but 100%, because when people come here to maybe repair some objects or rebuild some objects, then conscription staff already is with them to take them to the war. And there are not that many people who would want to build something in Sumy region. The only ones who were not taken by conscription officers is the ones who built the fortification structures. The rest, in case some construction person is appearing to rebuild the apartment house, all the charitable foundations say, don't take them out, that we brought to you, the people who live here. In terms of the payment of companies, we would be very happy to give every business, to give them benefits in terms of the land tax and other local taxes. But we have to understand one thing: if it's going away, if it's less in one pocket, it has to be more in some other pocket. At whose expense can we maintain schools, kindergartens, and other water treatment company? Because, I mean, everything is very much dotational. And in this sense, the state has to clearly understand conditionally if they give some benefits to agrarians, or if they take away the land for some fortification structure, they should give compensation, and there will be no conflict with any company, and it will be working normally everywhere, because we are not able to do the work of the kindergarten in case we don't have anything to work with this, because there will not be any taxes from the state business that we have in each territory, and that's the closed circle. So we can't take the money of the local budgets, especially when the company is relocated, because if they moved conditionally in Lviv, that at least for 1 year or until the end of the war, let them pay the income tax using the place where they registered, if it's not captured by the enemy. If it's captured by the enemy, that's no problem. But if they are relocating, then there is this drop in the budget in the middle of the budget year. This is not good, and the circle closes. Last year, the state was slightly compensated for railways. We received losses from railways that was not paying tax for 1 year for placement with us, some 10 million hryvnia. We received compensation from the state in the amount of 4 billion. My mathematics is not working well, so the state has to develop a clear mechanism. If you go away, what remains in the taxation base for the local budget? If the state makes a decision on introducing some benefits for some companies or individuals at the place where we have some military activities, like the company can stop paying, but some taxes. We need to calculate that, and that has to be coming from the state. And then the social base will continue working, because 95% of my population returned. We are very actively engaging in social policy. We have the transportation that is going free of charge, the kindergartens, the hospitals are working, and that helps people return And then people, the entrepreneurs, have the possibility to hire these people to work somehow, and they're not leaving this territory. And this is something I wanted to mention. And one more thing, in terms of the projects, I'm already finishing. Yuri Petion from the bank said, every bank has to be more clear with each company which projects you need to sit down with everybody, because there are some ideas, there are some wishes, but sometimes physically we are overloaded and we can't cope with it. And the last thing, the housing for the ones who remained without the housing. People from Kharkiv or Sumy will not go to Ternopil or Lviv. People have historical processes. They will not go there, so we have to build housing closer. We all believe that we will come back to Bakhmut and we will rebuild all the housing. Of course, we have to demine it, make the territory safe, and rebuild the housing for people. We are not cheating these people. We have to build housing at the territories which is more safe, where it's close as possible to define these land plots somewhere in Zaporizhia, Poltava Oblast, Sumy Oblast, with some simplified procedure and not with the general one. To go away from this ecological assessment that really delays the process, to make sure that the business would go in and build, because people have certificates for the destroyed housing for tens of millions of hryvnia, actually for hundreds of millions of hryvnia, I apologize, because people have this certificates, but the business doesn't want to build anything. Even in the Sumy Oblast, like Romny, which is 200 kilometers from the border. So this question needs to be raised, and to also engage local governance, not to be guided with the residential code of 67 that you will be privatizing for 27 hryvnia. There has to be a normal market and the like. So let us create these conditions, and then the economy will work more actively. People will be active to go into territories. There will be clear guarantees that these people will not be taken to conscription offices. They have to understand that there is this budget and people can plan something for the next year, and then it will start working. And once again, going back to these shahets, in case somebody has the possibility to knock at the doors of our armed forces. I was 2-3 days ago in Austria. They have normal Zenit units that can be brought with any truck, and they should be put as a radios. They're not expensive. They should have one radio location complex for one complex, and there is a shield for taking down this. These are not rockets, these are not missiles. We can bring them down in dozens, and now we let them go all the way to Kremenchuk. Nobody can take them down. So we have a lot of questions. Thank you for this discussion that you raised. Thank you. We hope to put down everything, and we hope that these opinions would also be heard in the Ministry of Economy, who is also online with us. Let me remind you that until the end of this discussion, where we have the panels, we have just 15 minutes left to make sure that all the participants would have enough time to talk out. And I would like to pass the floor to Natalia Sidaruk. That's the director for ties with state at Interpipe, and Alexander Popovich also. Natalia, please, the floor is yours. Good afternoon, colleagues, and in reality, it's very important for me to hear it all, what is mentioned in this room, because I personally, with the questions of support of the frontline areas, I started with me to work with basically from the mid-22. Since the assets of our company are placed in the city of Dnipro and in the city of Nikopol. That is, together with Yuri, we are actually neighbors in even the construction, in the production site. And basically, what Yuri has said, I can only echo it back. They have a lot of drones, artillery, Graz, so it's really the city which is frontline. And in this particular case, the first question that we have for us, it's people. People, people, and people. We are doing everything possible in order to keep the people at our companies in the city of Nikopol. And as an example, starting from the mid-2022, some 200 children with parents, with mothers, we relocated from the city of Nikopol. They don't live there. They live in safe areas in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. But with this, we understand that the business basically is exhausting the possibility to support people. And another example of our work is the assistance. The families, the employees working and living in the city of Nikopol, and whose homes were damaged from shelling. We give them the support. I was listening very attentively to what has been said today, and in reality I understand that there can't be a unified approach in terms of providing the support. Every company is very different. And when we talk about the local authorities, how to say, we are helping the local authorities. We are putting in our money, whatever is possible. So we help them. So to ask from them some benefits, you know, it's not our story. In general, I wanted to mention several blocks. As already said, first of all, it's people. Number two, I can't call it, it's really the protection, the physical protection, to the extent it is possible. And not only in this frontline area as Nikopol, but also in other cities which are located very close to the frontline areas. So in Pro itself, we can see how often it is something is arriving, shelling in terms of the missiles and rockets. One other block which I wanted to support, it's exactly the support of these regions. Immediately I want to say that what I didn't say in the beginning, that we can't relocate our companies. It's the construction of billions of euro. One factory of the metallurgical industry will stay and we will work. So these companies have to work. Today we have already recollected about electric energy. For us, it's a very principal issue. The infrastructure of preservation of it. And also another question which I wanted to mention is the question about so at the level of the government it will not be implemented those measures which would deteriorate our condition. We're not even talking about some preferences. We're talking that it's not deteriorated. We talked a lot about the insurance of the military risks. The first project that was presented by the National Bank of Ukraine and the Ministry of Economy, it immediately shattered the business environment, because if you look at what is proposed there, first of all, it is not spreading to the zones of active hostilities plus 100 kilometers. The city of Nikopol, it is proposed to have the mandatory insurance of transportation. We take our products, we're going 100 kilometers, we are coming to the conditionally safe territory and we have to pay apologies. It's not working like that. Once again, let me repeat, don't interfere with us. I can talk what the colleagues have said, I can add, and in the end, what I want to say from my personal experience. In reality, I believe there could be some framework program, but I'm a big enemy of those programs that were shaped during these governmental programs that we have this permanently. During COVID, I personally know how these programs are formed and understand what is put inside in there and how then it is like formally mentioned as executed, not executed. So this measures percentage of what that in essence doesn't have any economic effect and doesn't help the business. That's why the framework program, yes, but there's got to be also point-to-point, very professional programs, expert programs for each direction. I believe this is the only way that we can actually achieve something. Thank you. Thank you, Natalia. I will pass the floor until the end of this discussion. We have just 8 minutes. In case there will be more people who would perform more, we will be limiting them with some 2 minutes. Alexander, please, the floor is yours. Good evening. Many thanks for inviting me to the meeting. I represent Unisoft Printing House. We are from the city of Kharkiv, and I absolutely agree with what Olga has said. We know each other with Olga. In terms of Kharkiv, our company restarted in May 2022. For 2 months we were not working, and of course the relocation of the company is quite a complicated case. It does require a huge number of money from the resources, and it's possible to do, but is there any sense in this? Of course, for anybody. We made a decision with the owner of the company to stay in Kharkiv and to continue working in Kharkiv. Why? Because if now the business will leave from Kharkiv, all big companies, the production companies, who will stay in Kharkiv? I just don't understand it. In Kharkiv, we have some 1.5 million people, approximately, maybe mistaken, but for various evaluations. Of course, we can move the printing house, but where we need professionals who need years to be trained in order to work this equipment. So they have families, they have wives, children, parents, and to move all these people, that's almost not possible to do from the point of view of the social component. The other issue that we have to define, and I believe there are big risks in general without building some special program in terms of the frontline areas of Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, Sumy region, Kherson region, Mykolaiv region, we can simply lose them. It will be just a desert. Let me explain to you why. Because all these regions, they stay strong, but with the business in mind. In case there is no business, there will be no jobs, there will be nothing to live for. So the owners of the company nowadays, the motives to stay in these dangerous regions, I mean, I'm not trying to really blame you all. We just need to live here. It's not only the economic, some big money for the relocation of the company, that's the emotional component. So I'm not reproaching. We can't simply get out of there. We were born here, we live here, we have our friends, we have dear places to us. In case we relocate all of this, once again, the big companies, nobody will stay in Kharkiv, nobody will stay in Dnipro. There will be empty cities, and the enemy will not be standing in front of us, but they will be standing in front of Poltava. I would agree with you, Olga, about the specific actions. And some businessmen, my friends, my relatives, they would know this could be really a loss in case the business doesn't see now that the state does take care of us. In which way the state can take care of us? They should demonstrate wholeheartedly that these people are very important for the people. And there is no possibility here, no possibility with this equal approach for different regions, because you need to show to these regions that they are important, that the state takes care about them. And when the state takes care about them, in response, there is the wish of investors, of owners to invest money. Within these 2.5 years, we continue to invest into our company. Moreover, we implement new products that can be implemented. You know what my friends say? Maybe you know something. If you're investing money in business, we can quietly continue to live in Kharkiv, because that's the surety that we should receive from the state to all of us, influence all of us, showing that we are sure that Kharkiv will always be Ukrainian and there will be no problems. What is important to do for this? And it's absolutely correct what was mentioned. First of all, of course, take care of the people, because all these people, that's our biggest asset. People don't need not to feel the closeness of the war. They have to go to shops, they have to give children to schools, they have the right to have warmth and heating and hot water and lighting. When we didn't have the lighting, while others had, I'm not again reproaching you, it's like different attitude. You can't understand this. So for people, it's important to make safe conditions of work. For own effort, we built the shelters, we made the protection of facades of the companies. We have made the warning systems about sirens in Kharkiv. We have done the energy security. We've built up 3 powerful generators, and they feed the printing house. We have built the shelter, because the ones that exist in Kharkiv, to run within 2 minutes, to them it's not possible. They are simply, it's not just enough time. We've made this to make shelters in the companies itself. Preparation of staff, I would absolutely agree that it's a very difficult system, because nowadays we have some 400 people working. Before the war it was 50-50, but now it's 2/3 is women, and men are serving in the armed forces of Ukraine. And the preparation of staff for the people, the preparation of staff does require a lot of time. So we also need assistance. Many thanks to the Ministry of Culture, who have given us the reservation, because 115 people who can go to the war, 750 people are working, and I can at least start breathing. The audit, I want that to finish very positively, and our companies in the unsafe areas, that this reservation will not be cancelled. To show that the state is interested in the regions, the owners, to buy equipment. We're not talking about the grants, because while the grants will be important, give us the possibility to go back to the preferential taxation that existed in printing until 2016, when the whole income tax we transferred to special accounts, and from this we had the possibility to invest the money into equipment, because once again our investments for the previous year there were some 30,000 euro. I mean, maybe that's not big money, but for Kharkiv, for printing, that's a huge money. And I want to finish by saying that it's very important to have support all branches in Ukraine, the production, but book production, book printing industry. It is so important. That is our preparation of people. It's the cultural work with people. So we have 2/3 of all printing houses in Ukraine. We can't be left without the books. How will we bring up our young people? I tried to explain it very briefly to you. Thank you, Alexander. Our time is almost up. Please, very shortly, Metro. Next, I would like to pass the floor to Lisa Trofimtseva, and then we will go to our real and our virtual room. Colleagues, I hope you can hear me. Welcome. Thank you for the invitation. I know that we are calculating in the Kyiv School of Economics, we are calculating the losses from the war. We have our own projects. We also participate with the World Bank. And the last assessment, that would be much more feasible in the beginning. I didn't present that Dmitry Gorinov. It's the chief of the project Russia will pay of economic losses. So this assessment of the damages in the beginning of the year, it was the needs of whole country. It was almost $500 billion, $250 billion. It's actually coinciding with these frontline areas. That's a huge amount of money, even if we combine all the efforts of the state, of the business and international partners. Of course, it will be recovering gradually after the occupation, but all this money, they had some evaluation of the priority spendings. Basically, a lot was not financed. I think it was $15 billion in 2023. In fact, it was 4 or 5 for the recovery needs. So it's from the point of view of all of the fulfillment of all compliance conditions of the international programs, donors, even the no knowledge of English. So apart from that, Kirill has already gone, and I would like to mention that there is some nuances that nobody wants to start rebuilding while the shelling continues. So we are moving more and more this horizon. So this compromise of the military analytics of the government at the National Bank, that the active phase will be over in the end of next year. And it means that nobody will plan any significant recovery within the next year. The question of financing, this could be also difficult compared to average. We are finishing with the World Bank, the sector of heat supply, because it's very important from the social sector point of view. And I can't give you any details. If we take the problems with financing, our idea is as follows. The biggest of these communal companies, utility companies, they don't have enough money to provide that. So the architectural budget, I mean, we have the dotational budget, so let's go further. The state budget that takes all the taxes on the work, and donors already help to finance other costs. That's already donors, that's already set. There are tens of billions of assistance for the budget, for the humanitarian programs, to the military, in the cash form, in the in-kind form, for which we are very much thankful. So in neither of the sources we have enough money to cover these costs. So we need some financial instruments that could be combining effort I don't know, maybe this is more up to the legal staff, legal advisors, how to structure this so that how it can be structured. The budget would help, the donors would give some guarantees. Of course, we need the workplaces, we need the housing, we need the hospitals, one way or the other. But in case we focus on that, I would concentrate, in case there's some amount of money, I would concentrate on energy and heat. Thank you, Dmitro. And finally, I would like to give the floor to Olga Trofimtseva. That's the Doctor of Agricultural Sciences, the ambassador with some special envoy from Ministry first of all, thank you for the comments in terms of the approach of state in mind. Just give me one more minute. First of all, I would like to I wanted to confirm that the example of Israel, this small country, says that they would need to relocate it fully from that region where the Israel is. And it's exactly honesty that a lot of speakers have mentioned, that we have to accept that with this neighbor, not very adequate, we will have to live further and be based on that. And the second moment that was recollected, it's exactly that we need to study the basics, because we do have what we call the economic capacity of the region, what we can do in Sumy region, in Kharkiv regions, in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. With all my love and respect to Lviv or to Transcarpathia, this is simply not possible to be done. And since I'm the person from the agriculture, then I can't help mentioning about the agricultural sector, what was told about. Actually, many thanks to Center of Economic Strategy, because this frank conversation, very acute, to me, it's the start of all the processes that can be taking place. If we talk about such sector as agriculture, and somebody is criticizing them for its not creating not enough added value, I don't think it's the right approach, but okay. We have to understand that, yes, some things like land for the production of some cultures, we also can't relocate physically. Correspondingly, this sector, like any other production center that the colleagues have been talking about from business, from economy, it creates the chain, this chains of added value. They are distributed not only for the production of creation of products and this added value, because when we talk about closing this economic activity in any region, be it the east, the west, or the center, this will lead to a negative chain, economic, social, and in general, from the point of view of this spatial development of the oblast or the territorial community. In terms of the steps, many have said what needs to be done. Yes, a clear prioritization. Also, clear prioritization was it's very good that we have this map now with a really clear regional approach, because everybody is unique, everybody has his own peculiarities, and you have to respect that, which sector will be prevailing, what needs to be done in the first place. About the local taxes, much has been said today as well as about the reservation and about the conscription offices and the pressure from the law enforcement, from the taxation offices. We should not keep silent about that. We should talk about it. And in the center of it all, there should be a human being. Anything that is involving the human capital development and this added value around these people would not be lost, because this whole this even response was kind of frightening, because it's we as the state, we should immediately say that, okay, we are giving away these regions. This can't take place. And correspondingly, we have to vice versa talk that this is all Ukraine, and this Ukraine will continue to work and live and fight and to really fight for its independence. So I support all the proposals already mentioned. mentioned will not take your time, will not repeat others. Thank you, Olga. Thank you for adding this optimism in the end of our discussion. And now, as we promised, let's come to questions from the room. Yuri, then we will have the question from the room, and then we will have one question from online. I would like to then ask if Andrei Tilupa is with us to maybe summarize some conclusions. Yuri, please, the floor is yours. I can't help mentioning Metro gave us a good statistics and analytics. We can see the figures, but you know, it's a surprising thing. We are processing a lot of projects of the energy for the production of heat and electric energy exactly in the regions. And there are some projects where the private producers are ready to invest in co-generation units for the production of heat with the supplies of heat to the population and sell it via direct agreements or just send it over to the market. And we are asking them, how are you going to sell heat? The tariffs are not economically feasible, and you don't have the compensation. But the response is very simple. We have enough for the tariff. We have the 3.5 5 years break-even point. We don't need 3,000. It would be enough for us 1,500. These are some abstract figures. So whether it's a non-profitable and hopeless thing, I would doubt about it. Thank you, Yuri. Please, let's use the microphone to ask questions from the room. Please present yourself. Introduce yourself. Oskar Cherbekov, the director of the Agency of the Regional Development, the deputy of the Zaporizhia Oblast Council. Some comments and some proposals. Look, we do need some systemic decisions. We talked a lot about the companies, but we talked really little about some taxation issues. Remember, the taxation was decreased to 2%. I think for the frontline areas, it would make sense to keep this low income, Chernigiv, Sumy, Zaporizhia regions, to keep the small entrepreneurs on these territories, because when we have the dilemma whether we should keep the strategic companies in the frontline areas that could be kept out. It's very evident to me the emphasis on small and medium business makes stimulate for people to stay there. Around them, this will be the members of their family. This is the economic workforce. And Andrei Glinish said more philosophical question: do we need to stay and to keep people there? Evidently, yeah. And it's exactly the job for the state. It's not just for the Hromada to be the producer of some decisions, because Hromadas are solving a lot of operative urgent questions, while the state exactly should be the one to balance, to make sure that people would stay in the regions with various levels of economic activity. The Ministry of Economic should coordinate those where the money should be invested, and then we can balance, and we will not give the possibility to become deserted, because that's what Russians want. They want a desert, and gradually to take away this territory. In terms of the regional specifics, you see, the companies of Kherson, Donetsk, Luhansk oblasts, they can't give money from abroad, because the counterparty banks in the first year of the war, they were introduced into the sanctions list. So Zaporizhia, other territories were put in the sanction list. That led to the re-registration in other regions, so that blocks foreign money. That also gives a signal to foreign partners that these are four regions in their full entirety, that they are not proper for the economic activity. So it's really a bureaucratic issue that could be resolved at the basis of the Ministry of Economy and International Affairs that is not solved for this 1.5 and 2 years. Payments to IDPs, they are taken away apart from the people who are not able to get anything else. I think it would be feasible, the people who moved in the framework of their regions, like Zaporizhia dwellers who moved from their Hromadas, and they stay in Zaporizhia Oblast to keep these IDP payments. We will stimulate the people to stay in the framework of this region, not in the frontline areas, but keeping in the regions people remaining the productive force, because, okay, we can win the war, but because people will leave from there, the big business is looking for shorter break-even, and the small and medium-sized business would be leaving. So it's very important to keep the small and medium-sized business in the frontline areas. Thank you. And the last comment from online. In case somebody didn't manage to make their comment, Alexei and Markins, I am the management board chairperson of the Marganets mining. We are the Marganets territorial community, and unfortunately I can tell you that there are 8 kilometers to the temple-occupied Energodar, and the city also on a daily basis suffers from the killings and MLRS and drones. They are like flies are flying around. That's not a very funny business, and I really want to support my colleagues. Boris Shapovalov said that there must be some clear criteria for the development of the zones of active facilities, because, for instance, we have some resolutions of the Cabinet of Ministers from the 25th of July of this year, number 856, where it's mentioned that, for instance, electricity during the cutoffs, the electricity should not be turned off from the contact line, 20 kilometers from the front line. But what we see in Marganets, we don't have the possibility to send in this electricity, because in Nikopol, one transformator is working out of 3, and in Marganets, all 3 transformers are burnt at this substation, so it's really bad with electricity. That's a different thing. Of course, the energy workers are trying to resolve this question and really praise energy workers for that, but there is simply not enough capacity in the network. But there are no clear criteria to define the zone of active facilities. So therefore, the city, the territory of the community, which is under permanent shelling, from some surprise, was excluded from the zone of active facilities. And as of today, the companies, they are forced to calculate, and apologies, to pay same tax for land and the tax on real estate. But to move the company somewhere, it's not possible to relocate, because the company is working on the deposits of the manganese ores. I mean, you can't relocate it geographically. That's not even the production of some factory. That's not a production of some construction capacity. You simply can't take away and relocate the deposits, because that's where the company is working. So we can talk a lot, definitely, about this, but I can tell you that I would really love to introduce this proposal, which pertains that at the state level, at the legislative level, to fix and to introduce a clear definition what exactly is the zone of active hostilities, and to mention that this has to be 20, 30, 40 kilometers, I don't know how many, from the contact line, because such decision will allow, in the present conditions, in the conditions of war, to provide the survival and preservation of the potential in general of the production companies. I know that we have very short of time. We have quite a lot to talk about, but here I would stop. Many thanks for the possibility to voice my concerns. Thank you, Alexei. Thank you for this. And now I would like to invite the Deputy Minister Andriy Tilupa to make some resume of our discussion, whether it's been useful and maybe what's most important that you would like to bring out of it. Yes, you can hear me well? Yes. Yes, we can hear you. Yes, I was attentively listening to every speaker, and I fixed a lot of things, these proposals, these ideas, because really we have different thoughts, and it's important to reflect on that. I think that, as what was mentioned in Uzhgorod, when the management of the country met with the local businesses, and there is a huge difference compared to our frontline areas. We see that during the full-scale invasion at Transcarpathia, we have added 300,000 IDPs. We have more than 400 companies relocated. The growth of budget revenues is 1.7 times. The some Hromadas grew by more than 3 times. And of course, we could be happy for Transcarpathia, but we understand at which price and the expense of which regions that is happening. And this migration, economic migration, forced migration. So we understand that we have to support, and the business has to give all the possibilities to relocate, but we can't, as it was proposed by Andriy Dligach. I mean, it's possible to define some frontiers and to cut it off, but we will not be doing this, and we will not be refusing from the supporting the development of Trastevets, Nikopol, Zaporizhzhia, and other frontline territories. And these territories, we understand that they have to be territories of resilience rather than problems, the frontier territories as the territories of possibilities. So that's where we believe that we as the government have to make as much as possible for support of these territories to make sure that people will stay there, the business will stay there, and there would be a possibility to quickly return there, because we can't, in reality, just to cut along the Dnieper and to forget about it, it's simply not working. That's why for this we have initiated the development of this strategy for the support of these territories of resilience. And a lot has been mentioned today in terms of ideas and proposals, how you can further develop this. And this all has to be taken into account in this strategy, and we'll be moving forward with some very specific measures, as Kirill Krivolap said, 250, 280, there must be all these measures, but they have to be very concrete, they have to be really be done, there must be a permanent control, and we should get the real result for these regions, because we are permanently hearing that this 579, the banking sector, apart from several banks, is simply not working. Insurance of military risks also not working yet. And we have to give some alternatives and the possibilities to these regions, not only to survive, but also to develop. And that's how we can together, all regions together, we can win in this war. Therefore, very much thankful to all the regions, the business who stays there, and we believe that exactly the government has to do everything possible to support these regions. Thank you. Andriy, many thanks to you. And at this, I would want to thank also all the speakers that joined us online and offline. Thanks to you, we were able to hear a lot of opinions and fit in timing, and we were specific enough. Let me remind you that this event is coming through the Good Governance Economic Fund, financed by the UK International Development.